Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast more meaningless than the rest of this season. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
What up, Nate H?
You were making a terrible face during that opening. I think it was an impression of me, but it was not great.
Mimicry is a form of flattery. I'm just trying to be more like you.
Yeah, that's what you mean. And on this week's episode, we are going to talk about the recent Mozeliak interview and the future for the Cardinal organizational structure. We're going to go over all the recent injuries, and we're going to talk about the upcoming series against San Diego and the upcoming series against Milwaukee. If you have an idea for the opening bit, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Hambone, here we are. We are near the season. Got a few weeks left. We got a big milestone to talk about. Big event. Yeah. Arguably the one good thing to happen in the 2023 season has happened. But before we get to that, little programming note. So as has happened a couple times this season, I will be out of town next week, and so it's on Ben to produce the episode for next week. So last time he did a solo show. We'll see what he's got cooked up his sleeve. Is what I was gonna. Is that a phrase? Cooked up his sleeve?
No, absolutely not.
No. Okay, maybe it should be. I'm
traveling. You want to elaborate on that?
No, I'd rather move on. Okay. I'm going to Budapest for work, which is...
You're not saying it right, Nate.
Budapest. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Which should be interesting. And then, so I'm going for like 1 week. It's almost as much travel as it is time in the city. And then I've been talking about it all summer. I've signed up to do this half marathon. It's the first time I've ever done it. I've been training all summer. Feel like shit. And maybe the worst possible set of circumstances leading up to my first half marathon.
Is the training is making you feel worse? Is that what you just said?
Well, I mean, I'm getting better, like I'm running longer than I've ever run before. I'm setting new
50 feet, 60 feet.
Yeah, I made it out the front door, made it to the end of the block. I think I can do 13.1 miles if I can make it to the end of my block.
Yeah.
No, I'm progressing. I think I've been progressing at a reasonable rate. I don't, but it feels horrible. Is what like the like running is not like it doesn't feel good. Like when you're done with it, it does. When you're not running anymore, it feels good. But the running part is not great. Especially now I'm running significantly further than I ever had before. The longest I'd ever done for one of these things was 3 miles, and this is 13. So I'm training for it. So I've been increasing.
What the hell are you talking about? Why do I care? What is this relevant to me?
Well, I thought you would appreciate the difficult spot that I put myself into, because I am traveling internationally.
You can run in Hungary. Who cares?
I'm often hungry when I run, if that's what you mean.
Stupid.
That was stupid. Anyway, I travel for like 18 hours on Friday to get home Friday night. And then Sunday morning, I'm supposed to go and do this thing. And I think it's like the worst possible setup for your first time ever doing like an endurance race. Traveling for work, going to be busy with work all day. Then you got to do the after hours hangout. And then I'm going to be jet lagged, and I'm going to go and try and do this thing. So I say all this to say this might be my last episode of Talking About Birds.
Oh, good news.
For one reason or another. So it is good news. So, to our listeners, thank you. To Ben, you're welcome.
Hey, Nate, if you could just shut up for a second. if anybody would like to submit their resume to be my co-host to talkingaboutbirds@gmail.com, subject line Nate's dead. Just send that my way, and we'll start interviews as soon as next week.
I'd like to remind you that it's Talk About Birds because we lost access to Talking
yeah.
About Birds.
Damn it. Damn it. All right. Talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. Nate's dead. Thank you.
All right. So one last order. What?
One that you're so busy, you're flying all over the world. When
Uh-huh.
our inquiring minds want to know, and at least one person on Twitter, shout out Rob Nunn, need to know, when are you going to the stadium to get a chicken sandwich from Shaquille O'Neal? Nate, answer the question.
Well, fortunately, we're anticipating a deep playoff run this year, so I've got plenty of opportunity to get to the stadium and try this big chicken sandwich. I was a little disheartened to see how low it placed in the ballpark standings. Again, thanks to Rob on Twitter. Although, I'm not surprised that the nachos place, was by and far a winner.
Sure.
Which I'd probably agree with. But
yeah, you're a nacho freak.
I am a nacho freak. So we've got one more important order of business to discuss before we get to baseball. Ben, as I understand it, you have acquired Baldur's Gate 3.
I did.
How's that going for you?
Oh, so much fun. Nate and I are both D&Ders. I am currently running my first campaign, so I am like always thinking about D&D. And this is like D&D in a really well-made video game with a bunch of great voice acting and like a sandbox environment. I'm really, really enjoying it. I created a drow bard build, and I am walking around perusing and persuading and being a little trickster and having a ton of fun.
Yeah. It's a cool game. I have a half elf wizard named Mickey Thump. And Molly and I've been playing it together. It is an incredibly dense game. It is like,
oh yeah,
almost inaccessible even to the most experienced of video game players and D&D players. Like, I can't imagine. This game is wildly popular, and I honestly can't believe it because it is
bunch of nerds out there, Nate.
Yeah, it is really kind of difficult to play. It's so dense.
Yeah, you can spend like 20 minutes in your inventory just like, okay, making sure everything is set up properly. It's fun. Yeah. I like it though. I'm having a great time. And I only got probably like 4 or 5 hours so far, still in the beginning chapters, but that opening sequence with the mind flayers and all that, I'm
good.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's fun. And as baseball winds down, who knows what we'll be talking about this offseason.
Got a lot of free time coming up. Yeah.
You're out there playing Baldur's Gate or any other video game, let us know. We're always happy to chat about this stuff.
By the way, shout out to Nate's other podcast, The Short Game. I guess you guys will never cover a game like Baldur's Gate, but shout out.
Yeah, thank you. We are talking about doing a Patreon episode on Baldur's Gate. There's a push-pull sort of relationship on that show because obviously we focus on short video games, but there are some kick-ass long games too. And this year has been really, really good for very, very long games. Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Check out Armored Core.
Really makes you think everyone's doing just fine. The fact that everyone is scrambling towards these 100-hour plus video games so that they can disassociate from the real world.
Yeah. No, it's not like a foreboding sign of what the real world is like.
Yeah, it's totally cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what is totally cool, Hambone?
Yo.
We did it.
Nate.
You did it.
Nate.
I did it. Fans of the St. Louis Cardinals did it.
I feel like a new man. I feel relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm on the beach. I'm sipping on a Mai Tai.
Wow.
Got all my friends there. We're listening to some music.
Yeah.
I feel like a weight has been lifted.
Seriously, I'm crying. You're crying. Wilson Contreras is crying.
Yeah.
Adam Wainwright has climbed the mountain to 200 wins. Yeah.
You know what blows my mind? Well, first off, huge congrats to Adam. That was such a good game. It was like the first time I've been locked into every pitch of a game in a little while now. So that was great. But I was thinking about the idea of like, so last year we had a couple of milestones. Albert Pujols getting to 700, which seemed absolutely impossible. And then, of course, as everyone knows, his hair lit on fire and he went absolute like just nuts for the final 2-3 months of the season.
Yep. And
And
that's
then
why he's bald
Waino
too.
and Waino had this sitting in front of him, which we all kind of thought was like, of course, he'll get there in July. This is not a worry. And it became almost more unlikely to happen than Albert Pujols magically getting to 700. I don't know, just kind of like when's the last time? Not to mention the battery record that was set with
Right.
Waino and Molina last year. Just kind of a crazy coalition of events. And like I said, the fact that the Waino thing turned out harder to be harder to accomplish than the Pujols thing is kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, I kind of thought this Waino one would either be done in like June or not happen at all,
Right.
And so unfortunately, it was really feeling like it was going to be the not happening at all. But frankly, the Cardinals being so bad, I think, is what allowed this to happen because we've said it for a while now. Probably if the Cardinals were truly in contention, Waino would not have been starting through most of the summer when he really just didn't have it. But yeah, that game last night, 7 innings. He looked great. It wasn't last night; it was Monday night, but he looked great.
They don't know.
Yeah.
Just
it
lie.
was it was it you want to say vintage Waino, but it's not really true because it wasn't really, it was vintage late 30s good Waino, if that makes sense. Like not a lot of strikeouts, but not a lot of hard contact, lots of double plays. Man, how about that near miss from Mason Wynn on that diving play up the center up the middle? Oh, man, that was the fact that even got it in his glove and like it's like a bad landing away from a real marquee moment for his rookie, his first month and a half in the league. But either way, it didn't matter. We all collectively clinched when John King was brought in. We know now that basically he was the only guy available other than Ryan Helsley, so you got to do what you got to do, and he got out of it. And then Ryan Helsley looked great team win between the defense and the pitching. And then that one single home run from Wilson Contreras, which was an absolute bomb. He hit the shit out of that.
It was like 114 miles per hour. He destroyed that baseball.
Yeah. For his 20th of the year. And, this isn't the biggest part of that moment, but it is a part of the moment to me that really, I think, will have some residual effect of just like the Wilson Contreras partnership in this whole thing. Waino's going to be gone, but Wilson's going to be here for the next 4 years. And I really feel like between his heater that he's been on basically the entire summer and moments like this, I at least personally hope have moved the needle away from all of the frustration at the beginning of the season and the questioning that sort of circled him at the beginning of the season. And we can go into 2024 with him just being like a dedicated he's dedicated and observed like leader on the team, like he was intended to be from the beginning.
I feel like a new guy after getting this monkey off my back, getting Waino to 200. I think Wilson feels better. I think Cardinal Nation feels better. I think it's going to be just fine. It's all going to be just fine. Wilson's going to show up, play fine defense. He's going to hit 20 home runs for us. Waino is going to go on to become a broadcasting superstar and get a red jacket. Everything's going to be fine. It's going to be great. We're all feeling fine.
Everything is perfect.
It's
not
good.
To mention, of course, his country music career that we talked about a little bit last week. And
that's going to be just fine too. It's all going to be fine.
Have you seen the talk of him getting a couple more at bats before the end of the season? This is the chaos that we need.
Hell yes. I did not know that this was even going to be an option, but I heard last night, I think Jimmy Hayes, Jimmy the Cat, shout out, meow, was talking about that he's been taking swings in batting practice and getting himself ready. And I say let the guy DH. Just give him a whole game. You're not stealing at bats away from it. It doesn't matter. Just let him go up there and rip it. And if I'm Waino, I say yes to that, and I swing as hard as I can every time. And I would love for Adam Wainwright to hit one more home run or even a nice hard single. That I would be excited to watch that game.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the that last weekend, the weekend of September 30th, is supposed to basically be like Waino celebration weekend, and let him DH the whole weekend. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like it doesn't matter. Let's just make it as fun as possible. I like seriously, it would, as an organization, I think that the right thing, the best call for enjoyment of your fans and ending the season on a high note, even if he goes over 12, like let him have an at bat, because every at bat, it's gonna be must see. Everyone's gonna be on their feet cheering for him. Let's make it happen. I've
100%.
also seen like let him close out the last game, let him come in as the reliever on the last game of the season. You know, there's a lot of different things to get him in there.
There's talk of him not pitching anymore for the season. And I get that, like, he's been injured. They've been stabbing him with needles and putting him in ice baths. And there's been a wizard casting spells on him so that his arm doesn't fall off.
Mickey Thump.
And I guess, I'm really on team, like, let Waino do whatever he wants. But it would be kind of, I guess I guess it wouldn't be bad for that to be his last start. But I do feel like, it's hard to close the book like this. I'd kind of like to see him go out one more time.
Yeah, and what is there to lose? But it would also, I guess the fear is it would be a big bummer if after these couple of really good games that get him these wins and, he pitched really well and then he goes out and gets lit up by Cincinnati's, bunch of young guns. And it's like, well, why'd we do that? Like, oops, we shouldn't have let him go out there and get tagged for 6 runs before he got pulled in the second. And it's just like, really disappointing. He's walking off the mound. Yeah, probably to a standing ovation, but like he's bummed. Everyone's bummed. Like,
yeah.
It
You could even use him like an opener, like get the first 2 outs and then pull him so that he gets the big round of applause. I don't know. I just feel like, it's hard. I'm having a hard time turning the page, even though it's like Waino's cooked. He's 42. He's given his body to the Cardinals. It's kind of like Yachty. It's just weird to say bye, and I don't really want to.
Did you know he's the first player since the divisional divisions in baseball were created in like the 60s, I think, to have 200 wins and hit 10 home runs.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, but it's end of an era. I also think, just talking about Wainwright, like in the abstract, I think even though this podcast doesn't really give a shit about wins and, they are what they are, but Waino's career is coming to an end. And I do think it's impressive that he has 411 games start and 200 wins. Like, obviously, I maybe that's the only time that wins is a relevant stat when you, like, as a career retrospective, like the Cardinals won almost 50%, or it was Adam Wainwright's responsibility that the Cardinals won almost 50% of his starts.
Yeah.
And obviously they won games. There was no decisions and all that other stuff in there, but kind of crazy.
The larger the sample size, the more wins start to tell the story of a pitcher's ability to be successful. So yeah, when you look over 400 starts, if he's won 200 of them, then yeah, you're like, well, he must have been pretty good. Like they wouldn't have given him that many games. He wouldn't have pitched for that long. He must have gone deep enough in games generally. Like, a win is as much your ability to keep runs down as it is to go deep into the game, just to give your team more time to score runs. There's a lot that like can be told over a long period of time, but obviously, like you said, we all know on an individual, even on a season by season basis, wins don't really tell any sort of story. But yeah, you have to have been pretty freaking good to get to 200 of these things.
Yeah, and I guess
who
I
knows
don't
how many
think
more will happen.
I don't. You mean 200 game winners?
Yes.
Yeah, that is a huge question because they are. They're not going to like abolish the stat, but it's just no one's going to talk about it. I think in the very near future. This also starts a conversation that you and I have kind of kicked around a little bit. I do not believe that Adam Wainwright, I don't think he would get my vote for the legitimate Hall of Fame. But I do think that he is an interesting candidate. I think he's going to be on the ballot longer than somebody with his war totals and all that kind of stuff would normally be, because he's such a nice guy. He's got World Series rings. He played with one team. He quote unquote did it the right way. Him and Yachty, there's a lot of good story. There's just people like Adam Wainwright.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised. Like, this conversation, obviously we have 5 years until this really starts, but I do think the conversation is going to be different, especially when we're a couple of years removed from this final season. I'll be really curious. Like, if a veterans committee, or if he gets in, I don't know. I don't know what the odds will be, but it's like, oh, maybe you should place like $50 bet on that just to see what happens.
I don't believe that he'll make it very far in the standard Hall of Fame voting. He's missing a couple of the key credentials that Hall of Fame pitchers get, but you're right in that I think his intangibles, we've seen it before where that can be either the, like in a Vlad Guerrero standpoint, everyone loved him so much. He doesn't have necessarily the season numbers that most people who get in, but he's just such a likable dude. He gets in. Or you have the Kurt Schilling, where you have easily the numbers, but you're such a raging douchebag. No one wants to vote for you, right?
Well, then he picked up his ball and went home eventually. Don't forget about that.
Well, of course.
The
he doesn't even
manliest
want
man,
it.
Yeah.
And I want to repeat that he has blocked me personally, my Twitter account with like 300 followers on it. He has blocked me on Twitter, which is still one of my greatest accomplishments.
The coolest thing about you is that fact.
And I don't know why. I would love to know what I said. Probably something like fuck Kurt Schilling. But the fact that he even saw it. Anyway.
Petty.
So I don't know. But Veterans Committee, because of all those things, how, like, when are we ever going to see a pitcher spend their entire major league level career with a single team? His peak was Hall of Fame level peak. He just missed out on the Cy Youngs because, there's this guy named Clayton Kershaw is out there, and also Chris Carpenter, Tim Lincecum, like, he ran in. There's always, you're always gonna there's always gonna be other elite guys, but some particularly elite guys, or vote sharing because of Chris Carpenter. So I think there's enough narrative there. Obviously, I think he's incredible. I don't think we need to relitigate that, but he's a Veterans Committee guy to me, that he gets in for his impact on a single team. And, like 200 wins, I think will mean more over time, for guys in this part of baseball, this era of baseball. It'll mean a little bit more. So we'll see. Well, let's move on. I guess we got a couple more weeks of Waino. We'll see how they use him. Let's talk about recently Mozeliak did an interview and gave us a little bit of insight into how he's thinking about the organization and Oli Marmol and the future of the Cardinals. Ben, you want to kind of break this down a little bit for us?
Sure. So the first thing I think that should be noted is that Mo did confirm and felt the need, and I'm sure the reporters were asking him this question, but did confirm that Oli is coming back. So, whether you love him or hate him, he'll be here in 24 and running spring training. He goes on to say, and this is with an interview with Katie Wu, who we love in The Athletic. Mm-hmm. Mozeliak was quoted in saying, "I do support Marmol. I know he'll be back next year. I'm certainly encouraged with what I see from Oli as a young manager. He's extremely well organized. I think he's prepared, and I do think he gets a lot out of his players." So, I'd say that that's a pretty ringing endorsement of everything that Oli is doing. Now, obviously, whether or not we all agree with that, I think is well up for debate, but Oli's back next year.
Yeah. Not surprising at all. I think if he was going to be removed, it would have happened already. What's the difference between now and the offseason than the last, 2 months?
I wonder if the Cardinals are afraid of looking unstable, though.
Yeah.
What do you think?
A manager two seasons in a row, or
Well, they fired Matheny in the middle of the season. They fired Schilt for reasons too turtley. I think he was too turtley.
He was too turtley enough for the Turtle Club.
Yeah. And then alllll would be fired either mid-season or just postseason or just in the off season. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder. I think it's telling that, he has 1 year remaining. He's kind of a lame duck manager. And it seems like he kind of has to prove it.
Yeah, I do think if 2024 doesn't go well, or at least significantly better, then we're looking at a real potential for a change mid-season or otherwise, because he didn't. Not that they'd normally say anything about this, but there's been no discussion of a contract extension or anything like that.
Right.
It is simply he will be back next year. But I don't know. I'm in favor of it. I've thought about this a lot. I've kind of been pulled in different directions. I'm ready. I'm willing for one more year of Ollie Marmol. I think that he was pretty good last year. I think the problems this year, he exasperated some problems with some poor communication, but that is young manager stuff. But generally speaking, I think he got pretty undercut by a immediately shitty pitching staff. And the one thing that you really get to do as a manager on a day-to-day, game-over-game basis is manage your pitching staff and make decisions on who pitches when. Obviously, you get to do lineup too, but lineup is what it is. That's typically overblown. But the pitching changes are him and his staff's responsibility, and they were set up for failure this year. We all saw it coming, and it's exactly what happened. And he needs to be better at communicating it. But I'm willing to go another year. But if it's really bad in 2024, it's probably time. We've talked about it. It's time for a Bruce Bochy. It's time for a Terry Francona. I know those guys specifically aren't available, but that type.
Well, we don't know. Is Ollie Marmol down there delivering emotional speeches? Is he inviting palm readers and magicians when the Cardinals are in a tough spot? Is he doing those type of things that a real baseball manager does?
Getting clowns and balloons and what was it? Madden also got a bunch of love for allowing speakers out on the field
music on the field.
Music on the field. Can you even imagine?
I mean, a real manager, when you're in a slump, like a 4-game, 5-game losing streak or something like that, you got to take the team to a petting zoo.
You've got to. That's what a real man does, Ben. Take the team to a petting zoo.
And then you deliver a very half-hearted, weird speech at the end of that of how you need to pull together and get out of it. But yeah, I don't know. Ollie, I would say that his game management this year has been totally fine. He did kind of act like a baby at the beginning of the season. Yeah. And that really, it's hard for that not to leave a nasty little taste in my mouth. I need to brush my teeth of that.
Yeah. Well, and I really don't feel like, re-discussing all this, but the Tyler O'Neill stuff, the communication around Wilson Contreras's role, all of that was pretty bad. So I'm not if we're grading Marmol on 2023, he's a C at best.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to give another shot because I think he was an A or a B in 2022, and he just got dealt a pretty shitty hand. So I think maybe every manager looks better when managing a good team than a bad team. But I imagine too, just as a new manager, managing a really good team is is just easier, and so you can learn on the job a little bit better. But when your team is bad, every decision is put under a microscope even more than it normally would be, and you just look helpless.
And I'm not by any means calling for Ollie's head or anything like that. But somebody who I think might be the best manager in baseball right now, or one of them, he's also decently young. Craig Counsell is becoming, this is his final guaranteed year with the Brewers. Obviously, David Stearns is gone. That's the guy that brought in Craig Counsell. Maybe he'll retire. Obviously, he has ties in Milwaukee, but I would wonder if the Cardinals would try to swoon Counsell with a bunch of money, basically, and saying, "Hey, we're going to be good, and we're a organization that actually invests in their team rather than the kind of all the crap that the Brewers have to deal with." I also think the Brewers are going to take a big step back in this offseason and try to reload as their new president of baseball operations and all that stuff starts to matriculate. But I think he should be in the conversation. And this isn't even an indictment on Ali. It's more of I really think highly of Craig Counsell.
Yeah. If there's a better option out there, it is what it is. I'd be surprised if he doesn't stick with the Brewers, or, you could see like the David Stearns bringing him to the Mets in some capacity too. If he really likes
that could happen
with an infinite pocketbook, so to speak.
Pocketbook. Another thing I wanted to talk about from Katie's article, and this is pulled directly from the article, the Cardinals have begun preliminary discussions to restructure their player development system. Those discussions are in the initial stages, but it's believed boosting the team's player development system and baseball operations department will be just as high of a priority for the front office as acquiring pitching in the offseason. It goes on to say, and I know I'm pulling a lot from this, but I thought this was fascinating. Gary LaRocque, who has been the Cardinals' director of player development since 2014 and was promoted to assistant general manager in 22, already has a small staff in comparison to powerhouses like the Dodgers, the Rays, and the rising contenders such as the Orioles and the Diamondbacks. And I think, there's a lot to unpack there. I think full stop, that's great.
Right.
The thing that drives me nuts is, and we've talked about this maybe in not so many words, but it's the cheapest way possible to improve your team. And that's employ smart people to build up your front office and give them as many tools as possible. You could build out an entire advanced analytics front office department for less than it costs to have like
Steven Matz.
Yeah, sure. Pick a middling reliever. And I don't understand why the Cardinals and John, it has to be John Mozeliak's fault. He is the president of baseball ops. Why they've dragged their feet on this so long, why it took a season like this. Why wouldn't you want to improve before it gets worse? And why are you just now realizing that your pitching development is lacking? Okay, I'm all right. I'm calm. Waino got to 200 wins. Everything
was vibrating there for a little bit.
No, everything's cool. I'm super chill. I'm wearing tie-dye.
Got a hat.
That's
nice
chill.
hat.
Yeah. I got my Grimace hat on. I'm wearing tie-dye. I'm chill.
I just thought I was seeing double there for a little bit.
I would love a hat with my own face on it. I would love that so much. But
we've been talking about merch for the show.
Let's do that. If you're a hat
maker, confusing though.
Contact.
Is this Ben or is it Grimace?
That's the internet meme that we need to tag on to.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's good. All right. Let's cut this out of the episode so that we can...
that's good. It's good. That's definitely the word I would use.
Anyways, why is it taking so long for the Cardinals to do this? Why are they 20 years behind everybody? Why? It is in the Orioles tore down, built up, and made it to the playoffs. And the Cardinals have just been sitting there on their hands saying, what did Derek Gould report earlier this year? Throw the ball down the middle. Don't walk anyone. Just see what happens.
Yeah.
It's endlessly frustrating.
Yeah. And this is the sort of criticism that I think is very fair of John Mozeliak. Like, people love to tear apart some of these trades when I think on balance, Mozeliak has won way more trades than he's lost. Like the core.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this fact that, like, we've said this a number of times on the show, but I think it's the most telling fact. Like, name the last ace that the Cardinals have developed. And it gets really, really hard. We have these little moments of like Jack Flaherty's second half of 2019, Carlos Martinez's year in 2018. Like, there's these little pockets where it's like, yeah, they kind of had someone for a brief while, but other than those guys, like who is it? No one,
The
right?
answer is Adam Wainwright, who is retiring at 42 years old.
And arguably, the Braves did a lot of that work.
Yes,
I know
arguably.
they obviously impacted him at the major league level and had some impact on his growth, but that was all 20 years ago. All those
Yeah.
guys are gone. So what I'm hopeful with Tekoa Roby right now is that the Rangers got him to where he is, and now we're just going to reap the benefits of it.
I'll tell you what, man. Kyle Reese, shout out Kyle. He was detailing his start the other day on Twitter, and that kid is looking awesome right now.
Yeah, very excited. But this is the biggest issue with Mozeliak and with the Cardinals, and I think they've known it for a while. We were supposed to get this big pitching lab down in Florida that was going to revolutionize the Cardinals' approach to pitching. And I know COVID was a obviously it impacted the entire world in a number of different ways, and I believe that they've put some of this stalling on that. But I don't know. Sure seems like it didn't stall a bunch of the other teams, and it's been a problem for longer than 2020. So it's been very frustrating. Hopefully this is the awakening call that they needed, but I don't know.
They're admitting it in this article. Like how are you? God, I'm chill. Wainwright got to 200. I just don't understand how you're supposed to consider yourself like a legitimate franchise when franchises like the Rays, who are obviously they're not spending any money on anything, but they have invested wisely. Orioles, same story. Diamondbacks, same story. How are you letting teams like that outpace you on this side of the ball? I get the Dodgers. The Dodgers have $1 billion in payroll, a billion. They're spending money everywhere, and they have Andrew Friedman, who might be the smartest head of a front office in baseball. I'm okay lagging behind them, but this is such an obvious place of investment. And because they are just now taking it seriously, we're already years behind everyone else, except for the Rockies, who we know are just on their own planet.
I wonder if some degree, like we speculated this about Yachty and the team's catcher development and how like they just haven't really had to focus on it because they've had an individual contributor who basically ran the entire show. If you remember, for a good 10, 15 years, the entire Cardinals pitching system was built around Dave Duncan being able to turn like projects from other teams and veteran players and whatnot into major league contributing pitchers. And I guess maybe they got really, this is just a total speculation, but he got really comfortable with that because they're still kind of following that model, right? Let's go and get some dudes in their 30s and we'll fix them. We'll turn them around and they'll be good pitchers. And one, that's just not how the league really works anymore. Like the youth is where it's at. And two, they just haven't been as good at it anymore, So because of that, though, they had this like guy, and even though he retired how long ago, that like system, that idea just stayed in place. And like, well, we'll just keep doing it. We don't need Dave Duncan. We've got all these other guys. We'll keep that system rolling. And it's taken them 7 years now to realize that it's not working.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll, to that point, like specifically on the pitching coach thing, like Dusty Blake is still a good hire. He has that kind of forward thinking that is outside of the Dave Duncan, Maddox style of coaching. So we're moving slowly in that direction. But yeah, it's hard. It's just hard not to be a little frustrated about where we sit today. And of course, well, yeah, I'll just leave it there.
Well, it is a today problem, and it is a 2024 problem because we've been talking about all season, but there is no starting rotation right now next year. So no. You've got Michaelis, Tekoa, maybe Zach Thompson, maybe Steven Matz, maybe Liberator, maybe It's not a great spot to be in. And while it is a well-timed pitcher-heavy market, you're still, the odds on any big-time free agent pitching contract are not good. So the Cardinals have forced themselves into the worst possible scenario, which is that you absolutely need to acquire good pitching on the free agent market. Whereas most teams, what you really want to be in is that acquiring pitching via the free agent market is plussing up your already good rotation. Let's insert a Sonny Gray in at our number 2. And all of a sudden now we have a deep, fantastic rotation. Not, holy shit, we need Sonny Gray. Hopefully he can be an ace at 33 or whatever.
And the other side of there being like a robust free agent starting pitching market is that means a lot of other teams are losing their starting pitchers who you are then going to have to compete with. Yeah, I'm not trying to be a downer, but I am feeling skeptical about the Cardinals and their offseason plan where I sit today. We shall see.
We'll see. You know what, though? They went into the offseason last year saying we need to solve the catcher position, and they did.
Oh, they stepped up, Nate, and they got it done.
They got it
done.
Oh,
brother.
Wow.
Huge.
Wow.
Now,
Wainwright got to 200 wins.
Did the Braves acquire a better catcher, a younger catcher, and sign him to a cheaper contract for not giving that much away? Yes. Did the Brewers acquire a catcher via trade who is arguably more talented and the younger brother of the catcher that we have? Yeah, you could argue that as well. But the Cardinals went out and they got their guy. They probably overextended themselves financially and on years, but they got their guy.
I just blacked out. I didn't hear a word you were saying. Okay. This sounds, Sean Murphy, who cares? He's playing part-time right now.
Right. Good point.
Yep.
And he's still accruing more value.
Unlike Wilson Contreras.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get out of this fun topic and move into something else.
I'm wearing tie-dye. I'm chill, bro.
Yeah. So I guess it's good that the season is wrapping up because we're running out of people to play Major League Baseball for the St. Louis Cardinals right now, at least guys that you know and love. So you want to just run down this list, Ben, of people who've been recently added to the injured list?
Well, really quick, the Cardinals lineup for Wednesday night just got announced, and we have Quiricuto, Fermin, Baker, and Palacios in the lineup tonight. So if that gives you any kind of clue of what kind of what's going on here, then people are hurt. So you may have seen Alec Burleson broke his thumb sliding into third base last night on Tuesday night. Obviously out for the season. The thumb is that one finger. You really don't want to break that thumb. Anyways, he'll be gone for a while.
Man, let's sit on that one for a second. Sorry.
Yeah.
What a bummer. Burleson has had, I would say, a bad luck season. You know, his underlying numbers tell a totally different story than the results that we saw. And then for it to end on a bad slide, breaking your thumb. I mean, what bad luck is that too? Like just a frustrating season for Burleson. I was before this happened, I was thinking about Burleson, and some people were not like, people have been unhappy about him being so high up in the batting order when someone like Jordan Walker has been lower. And to me, that actually in some ways makes sense because Burleson was still the more unknown quantity. And I think prioritizing getting him slightly more at bats than Jordan Walker actually does make sense. It feels weird because also Jordan Walker needs his development, but Burleson is way more on the fringe of the roster.
Yeah.
And we need to know, what do we have in Burleson faster than we need to know what we have in Jordan Walker, if that makes sense. And so having him at the top of the lineup, getting him in every game, likely the most amount at bats of anyone outside of like leadoff, like it just made sense to me. And unfortunately it's done now, and he's been looking good for a little while now. His underlying numbers, was it last week we were talking about, he has some elite underlying numbers. There's only 2 more weeks of the season, so it's not like he's losing a ton of playing time, but this does sort of just change the overall vibe of this last month and ending 2023 for Alec Burleson.
What a freaking season this has been. And I think really quick on the Walker part, I think don't shake the boat. Let the kid do his thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like if he's performing well and he's feeling comfortable, that's fine. But yeah, we looked at Alex. I'm writing this up as a successful season from Alec Burleson. I think that he has a lot to learn, but I think we saw so much to like that his ability to not strike out, his ability to make hard contact. And he's just had bad luck this year. I think we've dropped this last week, but he had a 244 batting average and basically a 270 expected batting average. And that is just not going to go that way forever. So he'll turn it around. But again, I chalk this up as a good season for him. I do think the Cardinals should hold on to him in the offseason. It's kind of like Nootbaar last year, where I just don't think that his like street value on the trade market is going to be actualized unless there's a club out there that's really in love with his batted ball profile. But I really hope he sticks around. I really hope he could be the 4th, 5th DH first base outfielder type role. Because I really do think that some offense is coming. And to be clear, he is not a good outfielder, but that's okay.
Right.
We have good outfielders.
He really should be the DH or backup first baseman. And we don't know what Paul Goldschmidt's future with the St. Louis Cardinals is. Last year could be his next year could be his last year. And so there will be an opening at first base. And with Jordan Walker's progression in right field, like I'm more thinking Burleson is the first baseman. A lot of people have projected that Walker moves to first base, but I don't know. Like
I think the Cardinals should re-sign Paul Goldschmidt, and he should retire as a Cardinal and go into the Hall of Fame as a Cardinal.
100%. Yeah, totally agree on that. But we just don't know. So just speculating. But yeah, I that is my number one choice as well. Extend Paul Goldschmidt.
Moving down the list, Tyler O'Neill. It's official. He has a right foot sprain. And we all know that a sprain usually means some kind of tear, even if it's small. But he should be out for the remainder of the season. And, you know, I don't really have much flavor to add to this other than God damn it.
Yeah. Another perfect example of how this season has gone. He's been fine when he's played. He just hasn't played.
He's been good when he's played. Yeah. I just don't know what to, like, they were even kind of playing him in limited time, trying to protect the guy a little bit. I'm at the point where he needs to like get out of the weight room, start eating a bunch of cheeseburgers, get a little more body fat on there. Try, I don't know, try something different because
too yoked
the
up.
guy's made of glass. Yeah. Maybe his little bones can't handle all the muscle or something. I don't know what's going on there.
Those tiny Canadian bones.
Little bird bones. They're probably hollow. Have we cut him open? Do we know?
We should take a sample. We should take a bone sample.
Yeah, most Canadians have hollow bones, and I think that's underreported.
That's why they're so far up north.
God. Giovanni Gallegos hits the 15-day injured list. Right shoulder rotator cuff tendonitis. It's not an elbow, so that's good.
Yep. Yeah.
See you next year, Giovanni.
Yep, just on the pile. You know, he's great. It's been a weird season for him too. So go have a break. Hopefully you have a regular off season.
On good news side, with these injuries, that means Juan Yepez is making his way up to the big leagues for the first time this season. Would you have predicted at the beginning of this season that it would have taken until September 20th for Juan Yepez to make the Cardinals roster? What is going on?
Well, first of all, we say Yepez here.
Yepez, sorry.
And so we are feeling good about Juan Yepez. Well, he was up in the beginning of the year, was he not? It's just then he got sent down and now he's back.
Is that true? Okay. Yeah. Maybe it's been so long I'm forgetting. Yeah. I'm going to look that up right now.
I'm pretty sure he was with us for a while at the beginning of the year, but he
has 42 at-bats in 2023. So yes.
Yeah. And he was on quite the heater down at AAA. So he earned this call up again. Of course, it took half the team breaking to get him back up here, but we both have been believers of his hit tool at the major league level. He is one of he's like Alec Burleson, who, you know, can't really play a position very well. So I kind of, while I'm glad the Cardinals have prioritized Alec Burleson over Juan Yepez. I am still glad to see him back in the major league level because I do believe that he is a major league level hitter. There just hasn't been a good spot for him on the Cardinals.
Right. Yeah, they're weirdly similar players. One from the right side, one from the left side. They both have really good throwing arms. Yeah, well, we'll see.
Yeah, I would expect Yepez to carry a higher batting average with less power than Burleson, but overall a similar profile.
I would also expect those results to work out that way.
Wow.
Based on evidence that I've seen.
Yeah. Funny how that works.
Jake Woodford is back again. Guess who's back?
Our favorite
back
player.
Again.
Remember
Jake Woodford.
Remember back in 1982 when he started the season as the fifth starter in the rotation and how much fanfare that was?
Man, that was exciting. I remember even before that, I went to high school with Jake Woodford, and back in those days, he was throwing 100. I swear. I mean, they didn't have the Speedos, but man, oh man, that kid had talent.
But you were wearing a Speedo, of course, while you were watching it.
Good. Yes. Yeah. And just letting it all hang out. So yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about Jake Woodford. I think we've probably wasted more breath on not wasted. We've probably covered Jake Woodford more than most players on the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to talk about him anymore. And yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. I think one thing to remember is that teams are also, especially when you're out of it, there's really no risk to putting someone on the IL when they have any degree of injury at this point in the season. So all of these could be totally different. Everything would look very, very different right now if the Cardinals were still in contention, but they're not. So why risk it?
If things were different, it would be different.
It would be so different now if things were different.
Oh man.
Great point.
Oh my God.
All right, let's move on. So we're going to talk about the upcoming series and what's been happening around the league. But before we do, we want to remind our listeners that this show is supported by listeners just like you. If you're enjoying the show, despite the difficult season, if you've had a good time with us every week, we've had a good time, consider supporting the show and joining our Patreon. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. We're starting a revolution. We're gearing up now. We're buying weapons. No, we're not buying weapons, but
no, we're not.
Sorry, I got riled up. I got riled up.
Yeah.
We're starting.
I appreciate the passion.
Yeah. Consider joining patrons at any level, get access to the Bird Scored. We're having a great time in the Bird Scored. It's a great place to connect with other Cardinal fans, get away from the noise of all the other social medias that you're probably trying to decide where you're going to be anyway. You don't know. Why not come and hang out with us?
Why don't you come on home?
Come home
to the Birds. It's nice.
That's a good angle. Instead of join the revolution, come home. Come home.
That's aggressive. I don't like your whole
be with us.
I don't know. Your eyes get weird when you start talking about the revolution.
Benny's got a stew going.
Ooh.
Come home.
The water's just fine. Yeah.
It's about to be cold out there.
Yeah.
Sit by the.
We wear tie-dye.
I wish you didn't have this big chalkboard next to you that you're making a mark every time you mention that you're wearing tie-dye. It feels like it's some sort of bit that you've brought to the show. That's
I got a lot of time on my hands over here.
Yeah. Come home, join the Bird Scored. Our fantasy baseball season is wrapping up. Beefy boys, I'm coming for you. Hambone, you got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs.
I'm good at fantasy baseball.
All right. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. If you can't join that, consider leaving us a positive review on your favorite podcast platform. It helps. It really does. And if you're really feeling spicy, why not both? Ben, where can people find us online otherwise?
Why not Zoidberg? Yeah. So yeah, everyone come on home. And if you don't want to, you can follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. You can follow us on Instagram at Talking About Birds. Those are two different handles for two different platforms. We're on Spotify. If you'd prefer to listen to us on Spotify, you can find us there. We have a TikTok. Go check us out on TikTok. You can see what clothes we're wearing, even though we haven't really mentioned that this episode, or look at our faces, all that kind of stuff. And you can email us any thoughts or questions or concerns or ideas, whatever you might have, resumes to replace Nate, to talkaboutbirds at gmail.com. You can find all of that information centrally located at talkingaboutbirds.com. That's again, talkingaboutbirds.com.
Wow. You really slowed it down. You really made it calm there in
I
that
want everyone
last.
to come home. I want everyone to
Yeah,
feel
come
comfortable.
home.
It's
Come
nice.
home.
Soup's on. As your child
Yeah, could
screams
you
in the
hear
background.
that?
Yeah. But it's fine. It's
It's
fine.
fine. My home is nice.
Yeah.
Come to my home.
No, don't go there.
Don't go there. Don't come here.
Don't go there, Nate, friend.
Yeah. Yeah, that was all right.
Landed that ship. That was great.
Yeah. All right. The Cardinals are heading to San Diego to play a similarly disappointing team. Blake Snell probably going to win the Cy Young second time, and they're likely to miss the playoffs. So a good series of frustrating 2023s. Ben, what are you expecting out of the series against the Padres? Against the Dads?
The Padres has actually been pretty hot. They've been winning a lot of games starting in September. I think that I still kind of believe in them. I still think that their team is better than their record shows. I think the Giants might be the worst playoff base or the worst team to likely make it into the playoffs right now. So I think leapfrogging them won't be that difficult. But this team is getting hot at the right time. And like you said, Blake Snell is probably going to win the Cy Young, even though he's throwing over 5 walks per 9. He's had a really effectively wild. That is the definition of Blake Snell's season. But again, they're good. Fernando's really good. Juan's really good. Manny Machado is injured right now, but they have good players up and down, and I think the Cardinals are probably going to get their butts spanked a little bit here. Yeah, we'll see. Not looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean we've seen the Cardinals been slightly better over the last few weeks, so it hopefully will be some good series and some enjoyable games. But yeah, it'll be tough, and yeah, the highs are very high on the Padres. Right, that some of the best players in baseball play on that team.
They do.
So they're fun to. It's usually a fun series. Let's see. After that, we're back with the Brewers. So
yeah,
I mean, we're actively in a 4-game series with them right now.
Yeah,
and they're such an interesting team too. Horrible offense. You know, I was thinking about that with Waino. I was like, well, this was really the right team to play. You know, if you can suppress any offense, it's the Milwaukee Brewers offense. But that pitching staff, man, Freddie Peralta has really unlocked something. They're still good games.
It's really run prevention is the name of the game for the Brewers, right? They have the good starters. They have what did Brad call him? Fastball Freddie the other night.
Yeah.
They have a great back into the bullpen. That kid, Abner Uribe out of the bullpen. Holy shit, that guy's got stuff. And I've never heard of him. They're just plucking these guys off trees. And their defense is fantastic. They can pick it. So I know this team. They've got more wins than the Cardinals. They got more wins than a lot of teams, and they're fine. It's really hard for me to see this team go far in the playoffs. But for this week and next week, it doesn't really matter. I expect them to continue to kind of give the Cardinals a hard time, and kind of. This hasn't really been talked about too much on the show, but really since the middle of August, they've been winning games a lot. They've really been improving. They've kind of paced themselves away from the Cubs. The Cubs are 6 games behind the Brewers at this point, which I didn't think was going to happen. and obviously I'm wrong to a certain degree because the Cubs are so far behind them in the standings. I still think the Cubs are a better team than the Brewers.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter anymore. They've made enough space, and yeah, here we are.
Yeah. Well, the Cubs have really had a bad run of it the last 2 weeks, which has basically ended what was looking like a potential close finish to the end of the year.
Yeah.
The Cubs do still have almost double a better run differential than the Brewers. So I think like you're right, broadly speaking, the Cubs have been playing better baseball, but the results are the results, and that you can't really control that. So the Brewers at this point are like near lock favorites to win the NL Central unless something significant happens, like the Cardinals sweep them and the Cubs go on a run, and there's still enough, but 6 games back.
You never know.
With this amount of time, it's very, very unlikely.
Like I said, I kind of want that's how the Cardinals should spoil it. They need to let the Brewers win, or beat the Brewers so that they fight the Cubs and then limp into the playoffs. That's my desired outcome.
Agree. All right. Well, we've got some league news to talk about. What do you got for me, Ben?
Oh, big week, Nate. Let's go down the list. Max Scherzer is expected to miss the remainder of the regular season with a strained teres major muscle. So the Rangers have twice in 1 year acquired former Mets aces who have gone on to be injured and incapable of pitching.
Yeah. Max Scherzer has significantly impacted 2 major franchises this year in a negative way. He's part of the reason why the Mets were so rough. And then now he has cost the Rangers some top prospects, and he's not going to help them out in this playoff push.
Right.
I mean, we appreciate teams like the Rangers gambling on stuff like this, and the Mets, go out and acquire the studs. But this is the risky run when you acquire a nearly 40-year-old pitcher.
It is crazy to give up a player like Luis Angel Acuna for a 40-something-year-old pitcher that has already been injured. The good news is they get him next year for the easy price of like $23 million, thanks to how much the Mets are covering.
Right.
So it's not all over, and it'll be a lot of hype coming into next year with hopefully a healthy Max Scherzer and hopefully a helpful Jacob deGrom leading the front of that Rangers rotation. But all in all, a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moving down, talking about more pitching injuries as my browser goes crazy on me. Shohei Ohtani undergoes elbow surgery and is expected to not pitch again until 2025. So whatever team signs him, you would imagine he'd be strictly a DH, maybe playing some outfield. I don't really know. And then pitching again in 2025. But I think we all knew this was coming. But a bummer to see it in writing.
Well, the fact that it's not Tommy John seems like a good thing, but again, you question, is this just postponing the inevitable? I don't know.
Yeah.
He's still an incredibly valuable person, and if his 30s are he's a elite offensive talent who maybe acts as a reliever, that is still wildly valuable. So we'll see.
Yeah, if he's just Yordan Alvarez and Edwin Diaz wrapped into one player, that's still pretty effective.
Exactly.
Following up on Alek Manoah, we were kind of talking about this in the Birds Court earlier today, and I thought we should update on this. Alek Manoah underwent even more medical tests this week as his request. The insinuation, and this is coming from the Toronto Sun, I believe, the Toronto newspaper. The insinuation appears to be that Manoah was hurt, which could involve a grievance over service time, but no structural damage was found in the medical report. Messages to Manoah's representatives went unanswered. So he's kind of ghosting the media. He is arguing with the Blue Jays about his health status. The Blue Jays are saying, no, you're healthy. You're just not good. The story gets weirder before it gets more clear. I have a feeling that we're not going to hear anything from Alek Manoah for a couple of months here as he gets healthy, figures out what's going on. I don't really know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really continues to be no answers to this thing, and it's very, very strange. We were talking about like comparable situations, and I just really can't think of anything like this. He's young enough where like whatever it is that's causing this could be found out, fixed, and he could still come back as a very, very effective major league pitcher at some point. But whether it'll be with the Blue Jays and when or if that even happens is a huge question mark right now. He could just be done, which seems unlikely, but like this is so unique and so strange. It's a possibility.
Yeah, arguing back and forth with your org about your health publicly to the newspaper is odd.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Red Sox fire chief baseball officer Chaim Bloom after 4 seasons. This makes a lot of sense to me. I think I've been very critical of the Red Sox.
You've been talking about this for a long time now that the Red Sox, that he's not very good, or at least his decision making is very strange.
It is. And I think when you start your career in baseball ops with trading Hall of Famer Mookie Betts and getting Alex Verdugo and a couple of guys for him, I think it's really, really hard to turn the ship around. But he kind of just never did. And there were all these weird moves like acquiring Eric Hosmer, like just little things that never really made sense to me. And it was always hard to understand his direction. And they seemed to be pushing and pulling at the same time. I think signing Trevor Story in lieu of retaining Xander Bogaerts was odd, to then go on and offer Rafael Devers $300 million plus dollars. Just weird move after weird move. With him being fired, I'm also kind of thinking about like, it's not all his fault, right? Like a GM or a president of baseball ops does what their owner asks them to do. And the Red Sox payrolls in the middle, usually when they were winning championships, it was 1, 2, or 3. And now it's like 10, 11, 12. So I think that's part of the factor too. But a really weird tenure from a guy who could not have been more well regarded coming out of the Rays system.
Yeah. Yeah. Super strange. And the Red Sox, they're not a horrible team, but when you look at them compared to the rest of the AL East, you have to think like, how far away is their window? It feels pretty far away. Some of their better players are getting older already, so like I think they're in a pretty tough spot. And it makes sense to mix it up.
It does. And yeah, I'm not trying to gloat, but like this made sense to me a while ago. Also, like John Henry, you have more money than God. Just spend money on your team. You don't need to be the Rays. You can go be the Dodgers or the Yankees or whoever you want to be. Yeah. Well, anyways, the Nationals decide to extend GM or president of baseball ops Mike Rizzo, giving him, I believe it's a 3-year extension, so it'll stay the same there. I think that's kind of exciting. They also extended Dave Martinez just to kind of see out the rebuild. I like when owners let a baseball ops person do that. They won the World Series. They tore down. They're rebuilding. You're starting to see some really exciting play from some of those younger guys. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, they've been pretty good the second half of the year, and CJ Abrams seems to be putting it together. And like I agree as well. Like we'll see where this goes. They still have some work to do, but it has seemed like an effective rebuild. The Juan Soto trade was probably a make or break moment for Mike Rizzo, and it seems like they got some good value back. And they still have a ways to go, but I agree. It's nice to see that trust, and we'll really see because if he can do this, win the championship, completely collapse and rebuild, and get back to an effective, like a highly competitive team. He's one of the better GMs in baseball then.
Yeah. And the rebuild should time nicely with them not paying their like kind of legacy older players as much anymore as Corbin falls off and the whole thing with Strasburg still getting figured out. But I don't know, you could see this in a couple of years of the Nationals being super relevant again and led by K-Bear and CJ and some of these players at Mackenzie Gore, some of these players that they've got. All right, moving down, the Rays. I cannot believe I am reading this on the podcast. The Rays have announced that they have a new stadium deal, Nate.
Wow.
They're going to kill the Trop. They're going to move to St. Petersburg, and they're going to build what looks like, the renderings look like a beautiful 35,000 person stadium in near the water in St. Petersburg. There is low-income housing that is going to be built around. There is going to be live workplaces. It's like this really interesting idea where like people live on top of the building, but they can like eat and work and shop on the lower levels of the building. It's just like, it's just kind of new, it's kind of funky, this interesting idea.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think that's exciting for fans in Florida. You deserve a much better stadium. I think what is more intriguing for people outside of Tampa is that Rob Manfred stated that the league would continue to, or would start to focus on expansion once the A's stadium situation was figured out. That seems to be pretty much wrapped up. And then the Rays stadium situation was figured out. So those two things seem to have been figured out at this point. We shall see. Obviously, anything could happen. But it sounds like MLB is going to start focusing on expansion and probably soon.
Yeah, it's happening. It's exactly like you said. We need to do these two things, and then it's happening. Those two things, here it comes. It wouldn't surprise me if we hear this offseason the plans for expansion.
Yeah. Nashville Sound and the St. Louis Cardinal Twos.
Yeah, we need another team. Get them in here. Nashville, Portland, Memphis, Montreal. There's Charlotte. There's a fair amount of cities that have, I think, been lobbying for it.
I always waver on this, but I think Nashville and Montreal would probably be my two favorite. I think Canada having another team is fun. We know that there's fandom up there. And Nashville, another team, close to St. Louis, kind of the baseball belt around there. I think that would be great.
Yeah. I want to see a Mexico City team. I know that's been talked about, but
that'd be cool.
Let's get into Mexico too.
Yeah, another high elevation city to make the Rockies feel better about themselves.
Salt Lake City is another one that has been discussed.
It is. Yeah, that would be good for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
Salt Lake City, kind of a boring city.
I've driven
through
the
land of like Panera, and like
now hold on. You're talking, that's St. Louis, baby.
Yeah,
the land of Panera.
St. Louis Bread Co. was good. Panera is bad.
Yeah. Well, St. Louis Bread Co. is bad now too. It's all.
It's all the same thing. But I'm saying 15 years ago, Bread Co. was good. Right. Now it's not. But yeah, like Salt Lake City's idea of a good time is like going to the Tabernacle and like hitting the outdoor mall and making sure all the Mexican folks live on one side of the city. Like it's not my favorite city.
Pretty damning statements on Salt Lake City here.
I've been there a few times. Anyways, moving on. The Supreme Court has a chance to take on Major League Baseball's antitrust exemption. Minor league teams suing MLB filed their petition saying, having destroyed 40 businesses in one fell swoop, MLB will only be further emboldened if the court denies review here. So to be clear, that is the group of minor league teams that were dissolved post-pandemic. They are all collectively suing MLB for, obviously ruining their livelihood and dismantling the minor leagues. I think you and I probably agree on this. There's no modern reason that a multi-billion-dollar organization like MLB needs this. And I would be fine with it happening.
Yeah, this sort of legislation or this sort of opportunity provided to sports teams assumed some goodwill in return and some trust between like us as a society and these teams and the privilege that they get. And I've not seen anything in MLB and all the other leagues that get these sorts of benefits, whether it be antitrust, tax exempt, etc. It's incorrect, and they should not have those things, and we should stop footing the bill for all of these, or either footing the bill or allowing bad business practices for these sports leagues because of the legacy of them being the only ones to exist.
And you look, it's happening all over the league right now. You have the A's owner taking advantage of the people that live in Las Vegas and Oakland. You have the Milwaukee owner taking advantage of a dumb contract that Milwaukee politicians signed.
Right.
But of course, the people are footing the bill. The Rays situation. Luckily, the Rays owner is footing a large percentage of the bill, and there is community benefit that is a part of the bill, but it is still an expectation that a billionaire is subsidized by the people of Western Florida. And you have the Angelos situation happening in Baltimore, where happens all over the place, and
over and over and
they
over.
Maybe they're providing a civic duty, a civic service, but at the end of the day, these guys are here to make their money and to go and live on their little islands where they do horrible things to people, I assume. Sorry, a little ranty there. I'll stop.
Yeah,
but that's all I got for league news.
Well, I got one for you before we head into the game. I never know how to say his first name. Yusei Kikuchi. Did you see this? Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
I've seen it.
Yusei Kikuchi left tonight's game with cramps. He thinks it could have been caused by only sleeping 11 hours last night instead of his usual 13 or 14 hours of sleep.
What? Is he a cat?
That's some king shit right there, my man.
How?
I normally sleep 14 hours a night, because I couldn't get my 14 hours, I had cramps. Yeah, I wonder. That sounds like a syndrome.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I had a 24-hour endurance race, and I think the next day I slept like 10 hours, and I felt like that was like I was essentially dead for a while. I can't imagine that being every night.
It's truly impressive. Yeah,
it is. But I also feel like he's got like a worm or something.
That's what I'm saying. It sounds like he's got it's like there's some underlying problem here.
Yeah,
that he needs 14 hours of sleep.
Yusei Kikuchi, I hope you're okay, buddy.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
All right, Ben, I got something new for you today. So, a lot of people, probably most people, don't know that I was actually a creative writing major in college. Got my degree in creative writing, and I don't feel like I very regularly get to express that in my life. And so I thought, well, I've got a podcast. Why not utilize my podcast to showcase my creative writing skills? So I've got a new segment for you tonight.
This is an abuse of power right now.
It's called Poetry Night.
God,
please sit down for a moment and read and listen to my poem.
I'm snapping.
Alone I stand in the box. Alone like I've always been. A fastball. I swing. I miss. Just like I missed my freshman year homecoming dance because of the failed bracers procedure. Here comes the next pitch. Oh no.
God.
No. Come on, I've got so many more stanzas.
Jesus. Okay.
This damn
you were
card
the
chart.
Biggest idiot in the world.
I had you on edge, though. You were really into my poetry. I've got so many more lines.
Is that based on a real life experience? Did you have leg braces?
No, I did have mouth braces though, and I was thinking about how awkward I was in that time period. All right. Well, okay.
Wow.
Well, I would love to read more poetry to you. I've got so many more lines to read.
How much did you write?
Well, Ben, we can't answer that right
that's
now.
all you wrote. Okay, that's good.
We've got to appease. No, I've got lines. I brought bars, Ben, but we've got to appease the card shark.
You should rap next time.
Nobody wants that. All right. So if you've never heard us appease the card shark before, pretty simple game. I've got a set of cards here from the 2022 Topps series. Okay. So there's obviously been a number of changes since when these were printed.
Yeah. You can't afford the new cards. You got to buy late model. What the hell?
Have you seen the price? Have you seen the price of cards these days?
Thanks a lot, Biden.
You can't even get them in a lot of stores. They're like, they have these little signs hanging up. They're like, due to the popularity, blah, 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 blah. You know,
really
trying to get my Pokemans and my baseball cards. Yeah.
All right. Well, sorry. Thank you for your hard work.
You're welcome. So I've got a series of cards here that I'm going to name the player. Ben has to name the team and the position. You get a point for each, and we'll see whether you get eaten by the card shark or not.
Okay.
I will accept the team that they are on in the card, and I will also accept if they have been traded or signed with a different team since this card. So,
Denard Span, outfielder, Seattle Mariners.
Denard Span, that's a good one. That was a poll.
That was good, right?
Wade Miley.
Wade Miley. Oh crap! Wait, he's a Brewer starting pitcher, right? He's a Brewer.
That's right. Yeah. So he actually he's been really haunting the NL Central
so much
for a little while. Yeah, he has. He's played with Arizona, Boston, Baltimore, Milwaukee, Houston, Cincinnati, Chicago Cubs, and then Milwaukee. Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
Nailed it.
Let me actually keep score here. All right. Next, Jorge Mateo.
Jorge Mateo. That is, I think he's relegated to a bench role now because they have so much talent. But the speedster, shortstop, Baltimore Orioles.
That is correct. They have him listed here as a second baseman / outfielder.
Wow.
But he has also played shortstop for them. So, all right. Here's a fun one. Hunter Renfroe.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. He just got DFA'd by the Reds. He's an outfielder. Yes. Prior to that, he was an Angel. And prior to that, he was a Brewer. And prior to that, he was a Red Sox. And prior to that, he was a Padre, if I remember all of that correctly.
Yeah, let me see. So on the card, they've got him as a Red Sox. And yeah. He was also with the Rays in between the Padres. And,
I forgot about that. Yep.
So Padres,
He's
Rays.
been all over the place, and he has not been in the league that long. And he's decent. Not bad.
He made his debut in 2016. So, he's been around for a little while now. That's 7 seasons. But you normally don't see, with all that control, you don't normally see someone traded that much. So, yeah. All right. You are 3 for 3 or 6 for 6 as far as points go.
Let's go me.
Spencer Howard.
Ooh, okay. Don't know Spencer Howard. Sounds like a pitcher. I'm going to say that he is a Toronto Blue Jay. I'll say relief pitcher.
That you got one half of it right. So he is he's a starting pitcher. You said relief pitcher, so
damn it.
You're wrong on both, actually. So he is a starting pitcher for the Texas Rangers. He was originally with Philly, but he was traded to the Rangers.
Should have known.
All right. Let's see who we got next. Tyler Gilbert.
Tyler Gilbert, starting pitcher, Seattle Mariners, hopefully future Cardinal.
You are confusing him with Logan Gilbert.
Oh, wait. Tyler Gilbert is
Gilbert.
He's also a starting pitcher, isn't he?
Correct.
I was getting him confused.
Yeah.
For the Braves, right?
No.
No.
You will get 1 point for this because he is a starting pitcher, but he is for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He was with Philly first.
Big miss. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
But yeah. Hopefully Gilbert gets traded to the Cardinals. So I can't imagine that they will actually do that.
No, won't.
Here's a tough one. Zach Wheeler,
starting pitcher, Philadelphia Phillies.
That's right. All right. Ooh, this one's nice and shiny. What is this?
Is it holographic? Is that a holographic Charizard?
It is right in the middle of this deck. Alex Kirilloff.
He is a Minnesota Twins outfield first base prospect.
Correct. Look at this shiny card. Can you see that?
Oh man, hold on to that one.
Can you see that? Yeah.
Put that in your pocket.
Got a few more for you, Hambone. You're doing pretty well here today. Mauricio Dubon.
Mauricio Dubon is, I believe he's a Giant. And I think he's I can't remember if he's an infielder or an outfielder. I think he's an infielder. Let's say second baseman for the Giants.
Yes. Now, that is what he is on the card. So you are awarded full points. He is now, though, a member of the Houston Astros.
Oh, I don't think I knew that. The more you know.
He has been all year. Just sort of a utility infielder.
Yeah.
For the Houston Astros. I got 2 more for you. Freddie Peralta.
Freddie fastball, starting pitcher, Milwaukee Brewers.
Nice. All right, my last one. Tony Santillan. Santillan? Santillan. Tony Santillan.
It's not a great start since we don't know how to pronounce his name. I
do recognize it. I don't know if I would have gotten it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know this one. I will guess he is Sorry?
No, go on.
Detroit Tigers relief pitcher.
No. And let me see. I don't know if he is a pitcher. Has he been more in the... Yeah, he has been more of a relief pitcher. So give you that. He is with the Cincinnati Reds.
All right. Wow. Yeah, never heard of him. Sorry, Tony.
Yeah. All right. Well, total, you got 16 out of 20 possible points. I do think you've appeased the card shark.
Thank you.
And even though he interrupted my beautiful poetry.
Yeah, I was wondering, have we run out of time? You can't read the rest of it? The show's got to be over?
I mean, we were trying to do this episode shorter anyway, and we still failed at that. And I just, we got to get out of here. But,
all right.
If you're listening and you want to hear more of my poetry, let me know. We could do that series again, and hopefully it's not interrupted by the card shark.
Perfect.
So thank you, everyone, for listening. As always, we'll be here next week. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. We appreciate it. Just a couple more weeks left of the regular season. Wish me luck on my travels and my running. And if this was my last episode, it was not worth it. And I guess with that, until next week, go Cardinals.
Peace.
Peace.
Satan Milk would be a great name for a metal band.
It would be a great name for a metal band.
I wonder if that's taken. I'm searching.
Do you think Satan Milk is blood?
It's got to be a little grosser, but yeah, I think it's in that realm. Okay. Satan Milk is not a band name, at least according to Spotify.
Hell yeah. All right, write it down.
There is a record, oh my gosh, by a band named Province called Satan Milks My Cow.
So the words have been put together. Satan Milks has been out there.
Yeah. Kind of. The first song is called Barn.
Really on theme here.